Welcome, everyone. We are grateful that thou hast lended thy ear to the Round Table podcast. The Knights of the Round Table intend to discuss modern issues through the eternal wisdom of the Bible and encourage others in these uncertain times. Consider following us and sharing the podcast with as many brothers in Christ as possible, and most importantly, enjoy thyselves.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Round Table Podcast. We are here to resume a discussion from last episode regarding Halloween. For those of you that did not listen to our previous episode, we basically talked about how Halloween is actually not good and how, as Christians, we should not be supporting it in any way. And I'll give, some scriptural references for that in a minute. But first, I want to tell a story that I've researched many years ago about the origins of jack-o'-lanterns. And you might think, oh, what's the big deal? But, it is a fun story to think about. But, like most things about Halloween, it's all, deeply rooted in pagan mythology and stuff like that. So let's get into this, let's get into the story. So, basically, it's called a jack-o'-lantern after Stingy Jack, or Old Man Jack, who was allegedly some guy, and what he would do, that he was notorious for tricking the devil. And there's two circumstances I remember him doing this, and it was one, he was in a bar, and then the devil came to him and said, can I buy you a drink? And then Jack said, oh, I don't have any money, but if you turn to a coin, I can pay for my drink. And so the devil turned into a coin, and then Jack picked up the coin and put it in his pocket. And inside of his pocket was a silver cross, and so it kind of stopped. It basically trapped the devil in coin form in his pocket because there was a cross in his pocket. So he could not move until eventually he got out. But the point is, he tricked the devil. It's stuck him. And then another circumstance. The devil came to him, and I forgot exactly what it was, but basically Jack had convinced the devil to climb a tree, and then he goes to the tree trunk, and then he carves a cross on the tree trunk, and so now the devil can't get down from the tree. And so
Except that's
and
not
so
how
now
that
the devil
works.
that's how the legend
hilarious.
goes. And so the devil now can't get down from the tree, and he's stuck for a long time. And so that's I want to say there's another instance, but I forgot it. But those are two instances they tricked the devil. And so when he dies, or when he's about to die, the devil, actually, no, wait, yeah, God doesn't want him in heaven. He doesn't deserve to go to heaven. He hasn't been saved. But then the devil also doesn't want him in hell. And so what happens to him, Jack, is that he's basically in limbo. He's in, the dark abyss between life and death. And he can't go to heaven or hell. So he's basically doomed to walk, as practically a ghost, I guess you could say. And the devil had pity on him, and the devil gave him a burning lump of coal to have light in the abyss. And so Jack got a turnip, carved it into a lantern, a face, and then put the burning coal in the lantern and used that as a light. And so that's where the original origins of the jack-o'-lantern. And then of course later on it was assumed that, oh, if you saw a burning in the woods, oh, that was old Jack, this is ghost or something. And most of that was caused due to bogs, how they would combust due to the flammable gases and stuff like that. I forgot the scientific thing behind it. That's where a lot of these legends come from and stuff like that. No, there's a different process that I forgot it was. It's not spontaneously combusting, but it's it's something in certain type of bogs, especially in Europe, or even some in America. I think they're that have a lot of flammable gases and stuff around them.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll light little sparks, and have little flames occasionally, and that's also where the legend wisps came from.
Oh.
So yeah, you had this whole legend and idea of jack-o'-lanterns, then got put into practice. Oh, we'll get potatoes and turnips and carve them into faces and light them with a candle or some kind of other light source as a lantern. And then once that those those practices came to America, and they discovered pumpkins, which are a Native American thing. They used it for the jack-o'-lanterns because it was way easier to carve and it was practically hollow already. So it was just a lot easier to make a lantern out of it. And boom, that's how we have jack-o'-lanterns. And of course, somewhere down the line, somebody said, "Oh, jack-o'-lanterns are for warning off evil spirits." And I'm like, no, that's that's not at all where the legend came from. But basically, that's the legend. So something that seems, the point I'm trying to make is that something seems pretty, innocent. You're carving a little face into a pumpkin, scary little face, and then putting a candle on the inside. But like, if you look at where the legend came from, it originated by, the belief that this person, was hated by the devil, that tricked the devil, and both God and the devil didn't want him. So, yeah. So you're basically, I won't attack you, and I won't argue with you if you have a jack-o'-lantern outside your house, because I've had relatives and friends that also do that. And I've actually carved a jack-o'-lantern a while back. And you can carve pumpkins all you want, just like don't make a jack-o'-lantern, because there's nothing good about it. You can try to make some kind of excuse that's all in good fun, but it's part of old pagan rituals that we should have no part in. In fact, there's a Bible verse I want to share about that. Ephesians 5:11 says, "Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them." And 1 Corinthians 10:41 says, "You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons." So, the way I interpret that is like, if you are a Christian, you shouldn't be indulging in anything that is demonic or a representation of something sinful. But what are your thoughts on that, Luke? What are your thoughts on those verses?
So I was kind of like zoned out for a second. I was reading all the rest of the stuff that was on this page. Kind of missed what you were talking about.
These are two verses. I'll reread them. Ephesians 5:11 says, "Take no part in unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them." And then 1 Corinthians 10:21 says, "You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons."
Some interesting verses.
Yeah.
Another one, a couple more that's like, could be in the world but not of it stuff, and can't. Wait, what was it? Basically, you can't serve God and the devil, or God and yourself. You have to choose one and then discard the other.
Yeah. I think that's very similar to Corinthians 10:21.
Like, we need to make everyone aware of how dangerous this actually is, and how evil it is, because most people don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Sin in this world has become, or not even sin, just stuff that isn't godly is normalized so much in this world because, the Bible says that the world is against God. And so if you are of the world, you are against God.
Mm-hmm.
But if God has chosen you and you are saved and you are a Christian, then you are separate from the world. And you must continue to separate yourself from the world, you know? And you might think, oh, I want to fit in. I don't want people to hate me. But, Jesus said, I forgot the exact verse, but he said, the world is going to hate you. But that gives you a good sign that you're on the right side. If the world hates you, that's a good thing. That's how I see it.
Yeah. So,
In like Ephesians 5:11, take no part in unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. I feel like that's what we're doing here, or that's at least what I plan to do on this podcast.
okay, so what was one of the other things we didn't talk about?
Things we didn't talk about.
Did we talk about
Hmm.
the origins behind trick or treating?
I think we did. I think we mentioned that last time.
We talked about why they dressed up. I don't think we talked about trick or treating. Did we?
I think we did.
So I don't remember reading this one too much. I don't remember these words. I remember just like going past it and like,
Share.
oh, we should talk about that. Let's see. So it says there's much debate around the origins of trick or treating, but generally there are three theories. First theory suggests that whatever that word is, Samhain, I don't know, Celtic people would leave food out to appease the spirits traveling the earth at night. Over time, people began to dress as these unearthly beings in exchange for similar offerings of food and drink. Second theory speculates that the candy boon stems from the Scottish practice of guising, 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 which is a secular version of souling. During the Middle Ages, generally children and poor adults would collect food and money from local homes in return for prayers for all the dead on All Souls Day. That word again. Drop the prayers in favor of non-religious practices with the inclusion of songs, jokes, and other tricks. Third theory argues that modern American trick-or-treating stems from bells nickeling, a German-American Christmas tradition where children would dress in a costume and then call on their neighbors to see if the adults could guess the identities of the disguised. In one version of the practice, the children were rewarded with food or other treats if no one could identify them. Huh. That's trick or treating. Like three theories.
Yeah, I've heard
I don't
of
know
like
which one's real.
the first two. I've heard a lot about. Like, when you research these things, especially when it comes to Christianity versus pagan practices, there's going to be a lot of overlap. Okay, paganism and all these false religions, existed before Christianity, and so there was multiple religions happening simultaneously since the beginning of time. Well, not since the beginning of time, since there started being multiple different peoples branching off into their own beliefs. And, they take a lot of inspiration from each other because it all came from the same beginning people. And so as they branched out, making their own, religions and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot of overlap because, there's the same demons in our world. There's the same, spiritual beings. Nothing has changed in that sense. In fact, I watched an interesting video, but and I also researched it during history lessons and stuff like that. But like a lot of different nations that believed in different religions, different pantheons of multiple gods, would actually typically get along better because they understood that that they basically had the same gods, but had different names. For those gods. So like the Greek and Roman pantheon are really the same. The names are different, the exact same roles and the exact same stories, and so they've kind of just merged together. So that's why all other religions have had a hard time with like the Jews and the early Christians and stuff like that, because they said, "Oh, there's only one God," and then everybody offended because they're all multitudes. So different religions tried to fit Jesus into their pantheons, and then you had a lot of overlap in that sense because people were confused that the Christians would only believe in one God, and that's where a lot of division came from, because most other nations all agreed that, hey, there are multiple gods and some of ours overlap. So that was like the common belief throughout history until the Christians came along and the Jews, and were like, nope, there's only one.
Something that I don't really know how to do with this subject is we should kind of like pretend that we are, or one of us is someone arguing for the opposite side, trying to
Like playing devil's advocate, as they say.
yeah.
So like, I know a lot of people that agree with everybody else that Halloween isn't a big deal, and so I'll play devil's advocate. Okay, so let's say that it's not that deep and there's not really demonic going on, and it's the simplest thing a lot of Christians have their arguments about is just dressing up and having fun, or kids going out for candy, so that's their viewpoint, so it's not really bad to them. And for a lot of people, it's just tradition. It's simply tradition, and we like doing tradition, and it's just a family thing that we do every year. So why stop?
They could at least like not do anything scary, do it on a different day, and don't call it Halloween or like have anything to do with jack-o'-lanterns or scary stuff or bats, or I don't know. I don't really know how you could like compromise, except for you shouldn't compromise. You just
I mean, I think the biggest problem is
have a
that
separate day, or don't do it.
yeah,
It's like the rest of the world
I mean,
is celebrating Halloween.
I think it all comes down to like people can make
that.
excuses on
Yeah, they're gonna think that you're celebrating Halloween too. So you got to stand out. Don't be part of what the rest of the world's doing, because they're all celebrating the actual demonic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not really stand out. Just just not. Yeah, I mean, not all people. I think the vast majority are just like some of the Christians I know. They're just like, oh, it's all innocent. There's nothing really bad about it, because they don't know.
They're just oblivious.
They know nothing about spiritual things and spiritual forces and how it's actually a big deal. But then you have like the Satanists and the Wiccans.
Yeah.
Then you have Satans and Wiccans that are like hardcore. On Halloween, that is their holy day, and then they curse people and
Witches do exist.
they do some crazy stuff. In fact, an interesting story. Nearby, probably within walking distance. Within walking distance of my property, there is a farm. Really cool people. But they woke up one morning to find one of their goats, and they're cut open in what looked like a spiritual sacrifice, a demonic sacrifice looking, ritual type thing. And they got really disturbed about it because it was, one of their goats were killed in a field, and this whole thing was like set up, and that's like nearby. And a lot of people will not think, oh, demonic, Satanists and stuff. They don't really do anything bad, and they don't do anything around here, or they did that a long time ago. But no, that was recently, a few years back, probably. Like, people are still very active. In fact, I'm gonna see if I can get in contact, get someone on the podcast that has more knowledge about, these modern day Satanists and Wiccans and all that, because I think that would be a really cool perspective to see, or listen to, because people have given their testimonies, on YouTube and stuff about how they were part of Satanist church and all, and then they came to Christ, and then they realized just how bad their life was, and they go into deep detail of like what the bad stuff they did. And I would encourage people to look it up, because it is, it's not something where like cults don't actually do stuff nowadays, but they do. They verbally try to cast spells and curse people on Halloween and on a daily basis. And so it's something that we need to be aware of, because Satan wants it. He wants all of us to say, oh, it's not a big deal nowadays, and to just turn a blind eye and not think about it. But as people don't think about it, the stronger that evil goes. And so you have all these big Satanist churches popping up all over the place, and there's nothing being done to them. Meanwhile, people are vandalizing churches and stuff like that. Nothing's being done about it. So slowly and steadily, Satan has creeped his way, very obviously, into the world, and especially America, in our own communities. And we just choose not to think about it because it's not comfortable. I think that needs to change. Because if we don't bring awareness to this and like actively pray for these problems and try to change our lives, then we're no better than they are,
And everyone also needs to be aware of is on Halloween, you're
Do you got any more?
yeah, there's a higher percent chance of getting mugged or murdered or kidnapped on Halloween, because that's when all the evil things are happening. So like, there's kids just running around throughout the neighborhood, and you can easily just snatch one. And also, everyone talking about putting razor blades in Snickers bars, but I've never seen that before because I've never gone trick or treating. But I don't know how serious that is, but I do know crime is way higher on Halloween. So we've always been super careful if we ever have to go anywhere on Halloween, but so we just usually stay home and don't lock our doors and pray.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely what I'm going to do. We should also have courage that, God has our backs, and that, He will protect us from all the evil things. And these evil things, they're always there. It's just on Halloween. Nobody cares, and it's all like acceptable and fun. So it does give advantage to actual evil people doing evil things. So it's a way, devil is not going to always be so abrupt and be so obvious with people. He's going to make you think that he doesn't exist. He's going to make you think that it's not a big deal. In fact, I would definitely recommend reading the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, the guy who wrote the Narnia books. And that book, Screw Tape Letters, is really good because it's a book that talks about the perspective of demons. And so, he explains in such a great, how demons and how they, or at least, and one of the strategy is make people that we don't exist. Then you have, of course, the Satanist church that actively worships Satan, but there's far less of that compared to demons tricking people, or just introducing ideas and saying, oh, it's not really demonic, there's not really anything bad, it's not that big of a deal. And then slowly everybody's doing it, even Christians, because it's just a cultural thing, and everybody believes that it's not a big deal because Satan wants it that way. But we should not let that happen. We should really take a look at our lives and what we indulge in and what we practice. None of us are perfect. There's so many things that I need to change about my life, so many things that I'm doing that I need to change and that should change, because we we need to ask God to search our hearts, and we should be searching our hearts, but we should also just be searching what we do on a daily basis, or even on, during holidays, and what we celebrate, and what we place our identity with, what we see as fun and acceptable. And we should, get a piece of paper and write out your standards according to your Christian beliefs and say, this is what I'm going to stand for, this is what I'm not going to stand for. And of course, base that on the Bible if you truly believe in the Bible. And if you truly believe in the Bible, then it'll help you to avoid all these things. Because the Bible clearly, in fact, I have the verse on my wall right over here. It is, I forgot the reference because I can't see it all the way from over here. But it is, whatever is true, acceptable, good, and all that stuff. Think upon, good things. Don't think upon, evil things for no reason. Or don't think on scary things just because, you get a little thrill out of it. Think about stuff that is good. Think about stuff that is acceptable to do. And think like God is always watching, because He is. God is always watching, and think that if, God is clearly looking at me right now, but we often take that for granted. So we need to daily remind ourselves that God is watching. Is He okay with this? And if you're not sure, then read the Bible, because the Bible clearly states, what God wants for us. And, it could be as simple as, I'm not saying that dressing up and going to get candy with your kids is a sin, but I'm saying that it is opening a door and softening up, the whole idea of demonic practices, because you are celebrating a worldly holiday based on deeply worldly beliefs, and that is centered around demonic things. So I think instead of indulging it, or trying to make excuses, or try to make exceptions, it's better just to avoid it, and to be verbal about it, and to tell other people we are avoiding this because God said so. And so I would definitely recommend for everybody listening to pray about it, and to ask God earnestly, and look in His Word, and research, why you should believe this, or, if we can at least spark your curiosity, research the stuff for yourself. Don't take our word as at face value, research it yourself. Go further, pray about it, and see what God reveals to you, or that you find. Because I promise you will find stuff that you did not realize, or who knows, you might be convicted into changing your life. Because that's how God works, He reveals stuff to us. He wants to change us. But He can only do that when we seek Him. When we look through His Word, when we research it, when we pray about it. Only then will He, reveal stuff to us.